You think you know what true wickedness looks like? No, you haven't seen anything until you hear about Mrs. Adejoke Silva, the billionaire's wife whose lavish life was built on the backs of others suffering. But what goes around truly comes around, and her tragic end was so spectacular, so utterly unexpected, it will leave your jaw on the floor. You won't believe how our own actions lead to her shocking undoing. Have you ever met someone who had everything and yet their heart was empty? Imagine a woman who lived in a house so big that you could walk for hours and never find the end of it. Imagine a woman who had clothes so expensive that even the richest in town could only dream of touching the fabrics. But imagine this same woman using all that wealth, all that power, not to build people up, but to tear them down. That woman's name is Mrs. Adejoke Silva. Mrs. Adejoke was not just any rich woman. She was the wife of Chief Bamidele Silva, one of the biggest business mogul in the nation. Their mansion stood like golden crown at the edge of the city. Tall iron gates, marble floors that shone like water, chandeliers that sparkled brighter than the star. From the outside, it looked like a palace where happiness must surely live. But step inside, and you will soon learn not every palace has peace. Madam is coming, oh! Madam is coming, oh! Madam is coming, oh! The housemaid will whisper every morning, running up and down the hallway to make sure everything was in perfect order. If a flower was facing the wrong direction, if a spoon was not shining enough, if a servant's shoe made too much noise on the tiles, Mrs. Adejoke would notice, and her notice was not gentle. Foolish girl! Do you think I paid your salary so that you can serve me dust on a plate? Clean it again, she barked one afternoon at Kemi, the youngest maid in the mansion. The poor girl trembled, holding back tears as she quickly repolished the cutlery. Her cruelty was never hidden. In fact, it was almost like she enjoyed it. When drivers opened the door too slowly, she slapped them with words sharp enough to cut a man's pride. When gardeners trimmed the edges, she would scold them for not shaping the flower into perfect circle as if plants were machines. To her wealthy friends, she painted a different picture. Oh, how she sparkled at the ladies' brooches, sitting with her diamond necklace resting proudly on her chest. She laughed loudly, her voice echoing like someone who believed the whole world belongs to her. Ah, Joke, your taste is unmatched, one of her friends said. Madame Clara said as they tore her new wardrobe one evening. You know me now, Adejoke replied with a smirk. If it is not the best, it is not for me. And look at you, still wearing last section collection. I can't do that. The room filled with laughter, but behind those smiles were raised eyebrows, even among our wealthy peers. Adejoke's arrogance had no filter. Now, what made her even more dangerous was the shield she carried, her husband's power. Chief Bamidele Silva was feared and respected in equal measures. His businesses stretched across oil, real estate, and shipping. Politicians called him chairman, and police officers greeted him with two hands. With such a man by her side, Mrs. Adejoke believed she was untouchable. Who can challenge me? She often boasted in private. Even if I slap someone in public, the police will salute me instead of arresting me. And sadly, in many cases, she was right. When she humiliated a boutique manager in front of customers, nothing happened. When she fired a long-time driver without pay simply because he sneezed near her, nobody dared to question her. Each act of cruelty seemed small to the outside world, but inside the heart of those she wronged, scars were forming. But here's the thing about scars. They do not fade quietly. The whispers, they remind, and sometimes they return as storm. One person who knew this better than anyone was Mama Esther, the old cook of the mansion. She had served the Silva's family since before they even moved into their golden palace. She had seen Adijoke when she was just a young bride, before wealth had hardened her heart. One evening, as Mama Esther stirred a pot of soup in the large kitchen, Kemi, the maid, whispered to her, "Mama, why does Madame hate us so much? We do everything she asks, yet she still shouts." Mama Esther sighed deeply. "My child, it is not hate, it is emptiness. When the heart is empty, it looks for power in controlling others. But you mark my words, one day a person's cruelty becomes the rope that tied their own fate." The young maid did not understand then, but she would soon understand in time. Meanwhile, Adejoke's world of parties and diamond continued to glitter. Every week, there was another social event, another display of wealth. She loved making people envy her. She loved watching the poor bow before her car, a shiny black Rolls Royce that seems to swallow the road as it passed. But in her quiet moments, when the laughter of her friend faded and the light of her mansion grew dim, Adejoke would stand before her mirror and stare. The diamonds sparkled, but her eyes were restless. She had everything, but why did it never feel like enough? And perhaps that was her greatest cost, because she was never satisfied, always needing more power, more control, more submission from those around her. Dearest subscribers, let me pause and ask you a question. Have you ever seen someone who mistreats others simply because they can? Someone who believes wealth gives them the right to humiliate those beneath them? If you have, then you know the kind of woman Mrs. Adejoke Silva was. But what she did not know, what she would never imagine, was that our actions, those small sharp acts of cruelty, were planting seed that will one day grow into storm strong enough to shake even her golden mansion. Because no matter how high a person builds their palace, when the wind of tribulation blows, even the strongest wall can fall. And so, while Mrs. Adejoke Silva danced in her marble halls and laughed at the tears of her servants, the universe was already writing her own downfall. The question was not if it will happen. The question was when it will happen. And with that, the stage is set. The mansion sparkled on the outside, but within it, shadows are growing. The cruel billionaire's wife believes she is untouchable, but oh, how wrong she is. Her story is only just beginning. You see, cruelty is like a stone thrown into a river. At first, it looks small, just a splash, but the ripple spread wider and wider until they touch shores the one who threw the stone never even imagined. And that was exactly what began to happen in the world of Mrs. Adejoke Silva. It started as always with something small, a quiet humiliation, a careless insult. One rainy Tuesday, Mrs. Adejoke swept into the kitchen with her silk robe dragging across the floor. She looked at the steaming pot Mama Esther was preparing and wrinkled her nose. "What is this smell?" she snapped. Mama Esther replied gently, "Madam, it is your special fish pepper soup that you asked me to make for you." Adejoke's eyes narrowed. "You dare to tell me what I asked for? This soup smells like poverty. Do you want my husband's friend to laugh at me because of your village cooking?" And before anyone could stop her, she reached for the pot, and with one cruel motion, she poured the soup straight into the zinc. Hot steam hissed, and Mama Esther's hand trembled as she stepped back. "Start again, and this time, make it worthy of a Silva," Adejoke back before marching out of the kitchen. That day, Mama Esther did not cry, but her heart broke. She had served that family for over 2 decades, cooking, cleaning, raising their children, and yet, in one cruel moment, all her loyalty had been treated like garbage. But here is the thing, some wounds do not bleed on the outside, they bleed on the inside, quietly. And inside Mama Esther's heart, something shifted that day. She whispered under her breath, God sees, God does not sleep. One day, this woman will reap what she sowed. Another ripple began with Kemi, the young maid. She was only 19, working in the mansion to support her widowed mother. But Adejoke never saw her as human being. To Adejoke, Kemi was just a servant. One evening, when guests filled the mansion, Kemi accidentally dropped a tray of wine glasses. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the marble hall. Silence fell. Every guest turned, and then Mrs. Adejoke's voice cut through the air like a whip. Are you blind? Kemi, are you blind? Do you know how much these glasses cost? You idiot! This is not your father's compound. Stupid girl! She did not stop there. She slapped Kemi across the face, right there in front of the guest. The young maid's cheek burned red, but her heart burned hotter with shame. Some of the guests gasped. Others looked away. Nobody dared to intervene. But one man, one quiet man, sitting in the corner of the room, noticed. He was Chief Bamidele Silva's new personal assistant, Mr. Kunle, fresh-faced, polite, always in the background. But his eyes that night followed every detail. The way Kemi held back her tears, the way the guests exchanged uncomfortable glances, the way Adejoke laughed it off as if nothing had happened. Kunle said nothing, but inside he thought, this woman, her arrogance would destroy her one day. And then came the driver. His name was Bala. He had served the family for years, waking up at 4 a.m., polishing the car until they shone, driving Madame around the city like royalty. But one afternoon, when he took a slightly longer road to avoid traffic, Adejoke's fury erupted. You are just a useless and stupid man, wasting my time on the road, as if my time is not worthy more than your life. Get out of my sight and get out of my car. She fired him on the spot, leaving him stranded by the road. Bala begged, Madam, I beg, please don't do this to me, Madam. I beg, help me. Please, I have children in school. Please help me. I will not do this again. It was a mistake. I was just trying to avoid the traffic. Please, Madam. But the car window slid shut, and the black Rolls Royce disappeared into the distance, leaving Bala in the dust. He stood there, fists clenched, his chest heavy. He had served her with loyalty, and this was his reward. One by one, the people she trampled began to carry quiet scars, and though none of them had power, each of them whispered the same words in their hearts. One day, justice will speak. But here is the suspense, dearest subscriber. Justice does not always arrive with loud drum. Sometimes it begins in whisper. Sometimes it hides in the smallest crack of daily life. Late one night, after another cruel dinner where Adejoke embarrassed her staff before her wealthy friends, Mama Esther sat alone in the servants' quarter. Her old Bible lay open on her lap. Kemi, she called softly. Come sit with me. The young maid obeyed, her eyes still swollen from tears. My child, Mama Esther said, I want you to remember this. When a tree grows too proud, it forgets the storm is stronger. Madame Adejoke believes she is untouchable. But I tell you this, my child, no one escaped the hand of life. Kemi sniffed. But Mama, will we ever see her punished? It feels like she will be getting away with everything. Mama Esther's eyes glowed with a strange calm. Just watch, my child. Seeds have been planted, and seed always grow. And indeed, those seeds were growing quietly, unseen. Kunle, the assistant, began keeping little notes in his diary. Every insult, every outburst, every cruel act he witnessed from Madame Adejoke. He wrote it all down, not because anyone asked him to, but because he felt something in his spirit. One day, this record will matter. Bala, the fired driver, began speaking with journalists he knew from his old village. If people only knew how that woman treats us, he muttered, bitterness sharpening his word. And Kemi, though still afraid, began to dream of a day she would no longer bow in silence. And so, the mansion stood tall as ever. The chandelier still sparkled. The cars still gleamed. To the outside world, Mrs. Adejoke's silver power looked unshakable, untouchable. But inside, the cracks, the roots of tribulation were quietly spreading. Because when a woman builds her empire on the tears of others, she is not building a palace, she is digging her grave. The question was no longer if the storm will come. It was only a matter of when and how. The thing about storm is this. Before they break, the sky grew quiet, too quiet indeed, and in that silence, the proud never noticed the shadow creeping towards them. Mrs. Adejoke Silva was about to learn this lesson in the most painful way. It began with a gala, a glittering night at one of the city's most luxurious hotels. Every table drippled with gold decor, every guest dressed in silk. The press was there. Photographers snapped every move. It was supposed to be her night, a charity ball she organized to prove to society that she was not only rich, but she was indeed generous. She floated into the hall in a gown that shimmered like a liquid diamond. Cameras flashed, women whispered, men bowed their head in admiration. But then, something happened. When it was time for her speech, she stood proudly at the podium. "My dear friends," she began, smiling widely. "Tonight, we show the world that wealth is not only for luxury, but for uplifting others, the underprivileged." Suddenly, a large screen behind her flickered. The audience gasped. Instead of the charity logo, a video began to play. It was graining at first, then cleared. There she was, Mrs. Adejoke Silva, slapping Kemi, the young maid, in front of guests. Her voice thundered through the hall. "Are you blind? This is not your father's compound," whispered shot through the audience like spark. "What is this? Is this real? That's Mother Silva now. Wait are you sure this is real?" The video cut to another clip. This time of her screaming at Bala, the driver, on the roadside. "You are a useless and stupid man. Get out of my sight and get out of my car." Then another, her pouring hot soup into the zinc while Mama Esther stood helplessly. Each scene darker than the last. "Turn it off! I said turn it off! Turn it off right now!" Adejoke screamed, her voice shaking. "Security! Turn this nonsense off! Turn it off!" But the video played on and on and on and unstoppable. And then came the final image, her laughing with her friends, boasting, "Even if I slap someone in public, the police will salute me instead of arresting me." The room erupted in shock. Some people covered their mouths. Others recorded the screen with their phones. In that single moment, the empire of Madame Adejoke Silva began to crack. "Madame, please sit down." "Madame, sit down," whispered Chief Bamidele from beside her, his jaw tight. But she refused. "This is rubbish. Lies! Lies! All of it is lie!" she shouted, waving a diamond-covered hand. But deep down in her stomach, a strange fear twisted. She had no idea who recorded these things or how they found their way to this screen. And that was the most dangerous part of all. The enemy was unseen. The very next morning, The videos spread like wildfire across social media. Hashtag exploded. Cruel billionaire's wife. Justice for the servant. Who is Adejoke Silva really? People shared their own story in the comments. I once served her at the boutique. She humiliated me in front of customer. I know someone she refused to pay after months of work. She thinks she's untouchable. Look at her now. Everywhere she turned, there was a screen playing her shame. At breakfast the next day, Adejoke slammed her tablet on the table. This is sabotage. Someone is trying to destroy me. Someone is trying to destroy me. Hey, God. Chief Bamidele's face was like stone. And did you give them the weapon? He asked coldly. She froze. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by did you give them the weapons? I mean, he continued. These are your actions, Adejoke. You gave them the bullets. Now the word is simply pulling the trigger. His word caught her deeper than any insult. For the first time in their marriage, his eyes no longer look at her with admiration or fear. They look at her as if she were a stranger. But this was only the beginning. Her friends, the same women who once envied her wardrobe, now began to avoid her. At the spa, Madame Clara whispered to another woman, Can you believe Joke? And we thought she was refined, you know. At the club, another friend signed. Her downfall was long overdue. God does not sleep. The same society that once lifted her high now pushed her away. The final straw came with her husband's business partner. One by one, calls were made, contracts were withdrawn. Chief, one man said over the phone, I cannot have my company associated with this scandal. The videos are everywhere. Investors are worried. Chief Bamidele clenched his jaw, his empire trembling not because of market forces, but because of his wife Cruelty. That night, for the first time, he slept in another room, and Adejoke knew the storm had entered her home. Remember this, when people say the walls of a palace are strong, they forget. Sometimes, collapse comes from the inside. The cruel billionaire's wife had spent years stepping on those beneath her. But now, those same steps had left footprints. Footprints that led the whole world straight to her shame. The mansion was still standing tall. The chandelier still sparkled. But her power was slipping through her finger like sand. And this was only the beginning. Because soon, the people she wronged would no longer whisper, they will rise. And the question was, when they did, will anyone come to save her? When pride build a tower, humiliation will bring it down. And when a woman build her throne on cruelty, her fall will not be quiet. It will shake the earth. The world had watched the video. The world had whispered. But whispers were no longer enough. Now the voices became thunder. It started with a letter. Early one morning, 2 police trucks pulled up at the Silva's mansion gates. Sirens off, but authorities sharp. The guards, confused, hesitated to open the gate until one officer barked, by order of the commissioner, "Open this gate now!" Inside, Adejoke was still in her silk nightgown when the footsteps of officers echoed into the grand living room. Madame Adejoke Silva, one of the officers, asked formally. "Yes," she replied, startled but trying to remain calm. "Do you know who I am?" The officer did not flinch. "You are under investigation for multiple charges of abuse, assault, and employment mistreatment. You are required to follow us for questioning." The room froze. The maids, the butlers, the gardeners all stopped in their track. For the first time in years, they saw their madam caught off guard. "What is this nonsense? What nonsense is this?" Adejoke shouted. "Bamidele! Bamidele! Where is my husband? Tell them who I am! Tell them who I am!" But Chief Bamidele appeared at the top of the stair, his face unreadable. He walked down slowly, step by step, the weight of disappointment in his eyes. "Officer," he said calmly, "please, do your job." Adejoke spun around. her jaw dropping. What? Bamidele, what do you mean by that? You are letting them humiliate me in my own house? What do you mean by do your job? His voice was cold as iron. No, Adejoke, you humiliated yourself and you humiliated this family. Now you must face the consequence. Her knee weakened. For the first time in years, her shield, her husband's influence was gone. The officers escorted her out. Cameras flashed outside the gate. Journalists shoved microphone forward. Mrs. Silva, Mrs. Adejoke, do you have anything to say about these abuse allegations? Is it true you slapped a servant in public? Do you believe you are above the law? Her face twisted with fury as she shouted, Lies! All lies! This is lie! I will sue every one of you! But the camera only zoomed closer, recording every desperate word. In the police station, she was questioned for hours. Mrs. Silva, is this you in the video? Did you pour hot soup into the zinc while shouting at your cook? Did you fire your driver without pay? Her voice grew hoarse from denial. They are lying, officer. They are lying! They want to destroy me. Can't you see? They are jealous of me. Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? But the officers were unmoved. Time had changed. The internet had given the voiceless a weapon. And no amount of diamonds could silence the truth once it went viral. Meanwhile, in the mansion, the servants whispered among themselves. Did you see her face when they took her? Kemi said quietly, almost in disbelief. Mama Esther was right, Bala muttered. God does not sleep. But Mama Esther only sighed, her voice steady with both sorrow and justice. This is not our victory, my children. This is life teaching a lesson. Let us watch what comes next. The fallout was fast and brutal. By the end of the week, Chief Bamidele's business partner had begun withdrawing from deals. Chairman, one said over the phone, we respect you, but your wife's scandal is destroying investors' confidence. His political alliance distanced themselves. Chief, this matter is too hot. We cannot be linked to this. Even his children, who had always adored their mother despite her harshness, refused to take her call. The youngest one, Tolu, whispered to his sister, how could Mama do all these things? I don't even know who she is anymore. But perhaps the sharpest blade came from the public. Social media campaigns erupted. Justice for Kemi, I stand with Mama Esther, dignity for workers. Ordinary citizens began to share their own stories of cruelty from the wealthy elite. Mrs. Adejoke Silva had become a symbol not of luxury but of arrogance. Her name, once spoken with envy, was now spat out with disgust. And yet, she still clung to denial. One night, after being granted bail, she stormed into her husband's study room. Bamidele, you cannot just sit and watch them destroy me. You can't. Do something. Call the commissioner. Call the president if you must. He looked up from his desk, his face weary. Do something? Wait, Adejoke, did you just say, do something? He repeated. Joke, I have done everything for you. All these years, I shaded you, I excused you, I pretended not to see the tears of those you crush. But now, I am done. Adejoke, I am done and I'm exhausted. Her voice cracked. You can't mean that. You can't, Bamidele. I am your wife. What do you mean by you are done? You can't. You stopped being my wife? Yes, you stopped being my wife, he said quietly. The day you stop being human, that is the day you stop being my wife. The words landed like thunder. She staggered back, her breath shallow. For the first time in her life, Mrs. Adejoke Silva felt alone. And then came the final blow. A journalist leaked documents showing that some of the charity fund from her gala, money for orphans, had been diverted into her personal accounts. The internet erupted again. This is not just cruelty, it is corruption. She steals from the poor to buy diamonds. Lock her up! Her husband's empire tripled on the edge of collapse. Shares plummeted, contracts vanished, and whispered began that even the government was considering an official probe into the Silva family fortune. My dear people, wealth can buy cars, houses, and diamonds, but it cannot buy peace. It cannot buy loyalty, and it cannot silence the voice of justice forever. Mrs. Adejoke Silva once believed she was untouchable, but now, stripped of her shade, stripped of her pride, she stood before the world naked in shame. The palace had not yet fallen completely, but the cracks were too deep to hide. And in the silence of her empty room, where the chandelier no longer glowed as brightly, she sat alone, her reflection staring back at her with eyes she no longer recognized. The cruel billionaire's wife had built a world where only she mattered. Now she was about to step into a world where nothing she had mattered anymore. The palace was becoming purgatory, and this was not the end. This was only the reckoning. And if you think Mrs. Adejoke Silva had seen shame, oh, you are mistaken. What happened before was only a scratch compared to the storm that was waiting for her. You see, when a woman builds her throne on people's tears, it's only a matter of time before those same tears gathered like a flood and wash everything away. If you think Mrs. Adejoke Silva had seen shame, you are mistaken. What happened before was only a scratch compared to the storm that was waiting for her. You see, when a woman builds her throne on people's tears, it is only a matter of time before those same tears gathered like a flood and wash everything away. For years, Mrs. Silva believed she was untouchable. Her friends called her the Queen of Lagos highlights. But now, those very friends were turning into her judges. The scandal with Iyabo, the whisper about stolen salaries, the strange story of the sick driver who was abandoned. All of this became fuel for gossip blogs. Pictures of Mrs. Silva, once glamorous in gold lace and diamond necklaces, were now used as memes with captions like "The Wicked Billionaire's Wife." The internet is indeed cruel to wicked people. Within days, a full expose surfaced online, not from an enemy, oh no, but from one of her closest confidants, a woman who had once begged for Mrs. Silva approval to join her exclusive circle. This so-called friend released voice recording, secret videos, and screenshots of cruel message that Mrs. Silva had sent to staff. The evidence was undeniable. The world had now seen her true face, and there was no hiding anymore. In their mansion, the atmosphere was heavy. For the first time in years, Mrs. Silva's husband, Chief Bamidele Silva, called her by her full name without affection. "Adejoke, what have you done?" Chief Bamidele said. "Do you know what this means for my business? For our name?" Adejoke, shaking defensively. "Don't you dare put this on me. Bamidele, they are just jealous. Can't you see they are just jealous? They want to destroy me," she said defensively. Chief Bamidele replied, "Are you serious right now? Did you just say jealous? Jealous, really, Adejoke? Or are they simply shining light on the darkness you've been hiding? I warned you, Adejoke. I begged you to treat people with respect, but you laughed at me. Now see what you've caused. See what you've caused." Her husband, once her shield, was now her accuser. But that was only the beginning. The government took interest. Investigations were relaunched into how our foundation handled money. Remember the charity funds she once boasted about? It turned out a significant portion of those donations never reached the orphanage and school. The media uncovered receipts, transactions, even testimony from people who said they never received help. The case became a national scandal. Neighbors who used to greet her with fake smiles now crossed the road when they saw her coming. Market women gossip loudly whenever her driver parked near the shop. Even her so-called best friend, the ones who used to eat her food and borrow her jewelry, deleted her number and blocked her on WhatsApp. Then came the day of public disgrace. Mrs. Silva was invited to a charity gala, desperate to prove she was still respected. She dressed in her most expensive attire, a shimmering blue gown with a head tie that towered high like a crown. She entered the hall with her usual air of arrogance, only to realize that nobody clapped, nobody stood up to greet her. Instead, the MC cleared his throat and announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, in light of recent investigation, our committee has decided to remove Mrs. Adejoke Silva as patron of this organization. We do not stand for cruelty, corruption, or abuse." Gaps filled the hall. Cameras flashed. The once celebrated billionaire wife was escorted out like criminal. That image, her face twisted with shame, her eyes darted around for help that never came, spread all over social media within minutes. Back home, her mansion felt like cage. Her husband moved into another wing of the house. Her children, embarrassed by the bullying they faced in school, began to avoid her. For the first time, Mrs. Adejoke sat alone in her golden-plated living room, staring at her reflection in the mirror. The woman who looked back at her was not the queen of Lagos anymore. No, it was a broken shadow, a prisoner of her own pride. At night, the whispers of the people she hurt filled her ears. She remembered Iyabo, trembling hand, the gardener who had been thrown out, the driver who died without help, the maids who worked like slaves. For the first time, tears rolled down her cheeks, but there was no one to comfort her. She whispered to herself, "Is this what I deserve? After all I built, after all I sacrificed, is this what I deserve?" But the truth, my dear listener, is that what she called sacrifice was often oppression, and what she called building was built on people's pain. And so, the billionaire's wife, who once ruled like a queen, now sat in silence, stripped of her power, stripped of her pride, waiting for the final blow of karma to fall. But here is the suspense. Was this truly the end of her fall? Or was fate preparing something even more shocking? Something that would not just humble her, but leave her begging for the very people she once despised. You thought Mrs. Adejoke Silva's shame had reached its peak? You thought being thrown out of a gala and abandoned by her husband was the worst? No. The truth is, all that disgrace was only a drum roll, preparing the stage for the kind of revelation that will collapse an empire overnight. Dearest subscriber, I am sure you can't wait to know what happened next to Mrs. Adejoke Silva, and I am sure you can't wait to also know if the wicked billionaire will be punished for all her sins or not, and that will be revealed in the part 2. So like this story and share it with your loved ones, and of course if you have not subscribed, you won't want to miss the part 2, so subscribe to our channel. Till my next story, please be kind to yourself, stay safe and stay blessed.